This is the hardest thing that anybody could choose to do with their lives. This is the most painful thing that anybody, could be choosing. You should be an idiot to be doing this. It was 2010, 2011 that I'm talking about, right? Back then, there was nothing, no ecosystem, no incubation,
I know.
no. We were a clean
मेंटर्स
slate.
कहाँ थे जिन्होंने फुल
कुछ नहीं
फ्लेज्ड
था।
एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का जर्नी
कुछ
देखा
भी नहीं
था
था,
हाँ।
right? So it was a clean slate, and one thing led to other. I did my second startup. It did not work out. I shut it down.
ये एक बबल जो बना हुआ है ना, there's a
We have glamorized the whole startup thing in a way that is super unrealistic. It looks like a Bollywood, movie, which it's not.
it is
There's nothing fancy about entrepreneurship, to be very honest, right?
accountability is not a choice or a preference, it is a must.
Why do you feel entitled for that support? One thing that you have to understand is learn to stay lonely for a very long time and do everything by yourself. You had to build, you have to sell, you had to market, you had to do everything by yourself, right? There is nobody who is going to come. And this is my problem, right? First 2 years were again a big mess. We were trying to sell a product to a country that knew nothing about that product, right? The term coding bootcamp did not exist back then, right? I picked that term from the Silicon Valley and wanted to, localize it here.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Pratibha Pulijala, founder MEESCHOOL Incubator, an incubator dedicated to media and creative entrepreneurship. Through Incubators of India podcast series, I speak with ecosystem builders who very well understand how to nurture innovation and how these pathways can be made accessible to aspiring entrepreneurs. Well, with immense pleasure, I take this opportunity to introduce our guest today, who is not only building startups, but he plays a very vital role in shaping the very system which builds startups. Here I welcome Mr. Meraj Faheem, CEO, Telangana Government Innovation Cell. He is known for growth obsessed strategist who strongly believes in exponential growth with data driven execution. From crafting GTM engines to enabling large scale innovation led ecosystems, his work sits interestingly with policy, product, and performance. Dear friends, let me tell you that today's conversation is in this part of Incubators of India is going to go beyond the surface level success to decoding what it truly takes to build founders and not only startups. Because he has been extremely instrumental in helping 40 incubators and 200 startups in his initial phase of coming into the ecosystem. With his rich experience, he is going to unveil a lot of information which is going to help a lot of incubators today. And as ecosystem enabler, we welcome you today, Mr. Meraj.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. Um, what you're doing is awesome.
Thank you so much. I can again say it's an inspiration what I keep getting from all the initiatives what you have been taking. And I must say I'm personally impressed from the initiatives what I'm a very new incubator, you know that. And with your passion for precision, scale, and measurable outcomes, what you actually look at things. And, as you continue to strengthen one of the dynamic ecosystems in our country today, and while you bring in, you strengthen the system first into bringing in the ecosystem. That is something which actually inspired me to take up this initiative, Incubators for India, where I thought all such best practices practiced with all the incubators which you are actually, bringing them together, and which is forming a very strong ecosystem in the country today. So we thought we should hear from you today. So to start with, I want all the audience to have a glimpses of video, which is going to cover and encapsulate with all the initiatives what you have taken in such a short span of time.
Yeah, you're working on an idea at idea stage or product prototyping stage or fundraising stage, this is your opportunity. Come meet us, Team Telangana Innovation Cell.
So, Meraj, Telangana startup ecosystem is often admired for its execution, speed, and policy responsiveness. So, as a nodal force behind Telangana Incubators Network, how does TGIC, from an incubator ecosystem perspective, is most effective approach in aligning diverse incubators across in a shared founder success rather than isolated institutional milestone?
Okay, so we start from the very important question.
Yes.
Perfect. So one very important thing that we need to understand, as incubators and as part of, as contributing components of this whole collective larger ecosystem is that incubators are one of the most important and very sensitive, uh, pieces of the larger network that builds the startup ecosystem, right? Imagine this. A young individual with an idea walks into an incubator, and based on the support that they get there, convert their ideas into products into businesses. That
True.
business generates revenues, creates jobs, right? Directly contributes to improving the quality of life of both direct employees and indirect individuals, direct customers and indirect beneficiaries of their products and services, right? So this is exactly what we need as a young country, right? When I say young country, majority of our population is
Being youth.
young, right? So that's exactly the role that incubators play. And this is also where Telangana Innovation Cell comes into picture. We understood and we realize, we cannot just set up incubators and expect them to be successful, right? Running an incubator is more like running a factory, right? The difference being we are people factories, right? We are more of a setup where we are working with real life human beings, right? Depending on what support, what nutrition these people get, are going to produce the similar amount of success stories.
Yes.
So, and for that to happen, we needed to literally undo and unlearn everything that we knew about incubators and startups and ecosystem building and all of that, right? And then we started taking inspiration from developed ecosystems, from developed incubators who were successful, right? Things that actually worked. We studied them, we picked them up, got them to India, localize them to suit our needs, because India is very different when you compare with Silicon Valley or any other mature startup ecosystem. So we worked really hard to understand what works, what doesn't work, and then we let it take natural shape, and it now supports the larger ecosystem in a way that looks like it's customized and made to fit like this, right, for the ecosystem. So, and none of this is forced, right? You're part of the ecosystem, and you might have seen, right, it's not a thing where we mandate a particular
Yes.
responsibility on an incubator. They love doing what they do, right? And that is exactly, I think, and this is coming from the leadership itself, right? The government is absolutely forward looking and super futuristic and understands, right, we need to pick up the best practices from wherever it might be coming from, in the best interest of the state, in the best interest of its citizens and the country. So that is how it works, and that is how we have been designing things for Hyderabad, Telangana, and India.
So before this, your experience as an incubator and as an incubatee to start with, and now you are an ecosystem enabler, bringing in so many. So that all has,
Oh, yes.
contributed.
So, like I said, this is my natural evolution into this role, right? This was not part of my career. This was not on my career roadmap. This was not part of my plan. this was God's plan,
I
right? And
and a good one.
absolutely, right? I believe in absolute authority of God that whatever happens happens for good. You are where you should be, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? Um, so I've been an entrepreneur, and I'm a biotech engineer by degree. So during my engineering, I realized this is not something I would want to pursue because biotech is a research heavy field, and I'm slightly impatient of a soul. So I was like, ये नहीं चलेगा,
ये नहीं.
right? तो कुछ तो करना पड़ेगा. And like any other, young Indian who stepped out of, his house for the first time in their lives, having been pampered throughout their lives, you want to do something for your family. It's not that, the family wants it from you. You feel that sense of
You should do,
responsibility, and you
yeah.
want to make your parents' life easy. And I wanted to make my mom, slightly more comfortable. So I started looking for ideas, and in that process, again, learned, experimented with so many things, failed very badly, learned so many things, so on and so forth. And that led me to, doing my first product that was not even a full-fledged startup, but it worked out. And by the time I was graduating, I had a working product in hand and paying customers, and I was making, more money than uh, my other fellow batchmates were making from campus placements, right? That was
That's
both a good thing and a bad thing for me. Good because it got me on a different track than others. Bad because that success got to my head. I thought I can't go wrong. I thought I knew it all. I thought, I have figured it out. And like I said, I was young. I was stupid. I thought I knew it all,
all.
right? And I came back to square one very, very fast, right? Which is exactly where I learned and I realized having mentor is a very important thing, right? No matter what you do, right? Someone who's watching you, someone, who can pull you out of places and situations where you're not supposed to be, someone who can punch you in the face and make you see things, right? Someone who you love and respect, for you to listen to them, क्योंकि बोलने वाले बहुत मिलेंगे, but
मिलेंगे.
who are you going to listen to depends on how much you love them, how much you respect them. So how much,
That's the role model.
yes. And these things don't happen for a reason, right? No matter, you can bring the best, you could you know resurrect Steve Jobs and make your mentor, make him your mentor, but if you don't love and respect him, you won't listen to him.
And also that has to solve your purpose.
Exactly, right? And a personal purpose.
Yeah, personal purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I said, it's super intangible. So that is when I realized having a mentor is like super duper important. I'm from Mehboob. It's a small town about 80 kilometers from Hyderabad. I had this bhoot in me saying, I want to build Mehboob ka ecosystem. And then very soon, realities, striked, and I moved to Hyderabad, made myself, part of this ecosystem. This was 2010, 2011 that I'm talking about, right? Back then, there was nothing, no ecosystem, no incubation,
I know.
no. We were a clean
मेंटर्स भी
slate.
कहाँ थे जिन्होंने फुल
कुछ नहीं
फ्लेज्ड
था,
एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप का
कुछ
जर्नी
कुछ
देखा है
भी
नहीं
नहीं
था.
था, right?
the-
So it was a clean slate, and I made myself part of that ecosystem, and I grew with it, and I'm super proud of this ecosystem that we are all a part of, and we all made happen, right? And one thing led to other. I did my second startup. It did not work out. I shut it down. That was actually supported by Thai Hyderabad's incubator, of which I was the first incubatee. This was 2012, right? And in 2013, I did my third startup, which is the Hacking School, which became India's first coding bootcamp, and which is what I would call my real awakening as an entrepreneur. I had a little bit sense in me by that time. I had two stories. A little bit of experience, doing things, burning things down, and all of that. So the hacking school worked out. But obviously, it was not an easy story. We were category creators in so many ways. First 2 years were, again, a big, big mess. We were trying to sell a product to a country that knew nothing about that product, right? The term coding bootcamp did not exist back then, right? I picked that term from the Silicon Valley and wanted to, localize it here. So obviously it had to take its own learning curve, and it did, and it definitely rewarded me in a big way. I sold that company in 2019 to iCollege Australia, which is also when, around that time I started working with the government of Telangana. Telangana Innovation Cell, State Innovation Cell is what it was back then. And the responsibility given to me, because I was coming from entrepreneurship background, was the incubator ecosystem, right? Development of the qualitative and the quantitative development of the incubator ecosystem. And that was my first time, being exposed to incubator as an ecosystem. And to be very honest, while I knew there were incubators, I did not know back then we had about 50 plus incubators,
existing already.
Yeah. And what was happening there, so on and so forth. Everything was happening, but everything was happening in silos. So the first thing that I did as an innovation fellow, TSIC, was started talking to all these incubators. Who are you? What do you do? What's happening? What's not happening? Etc. 1 year of that fellowship went by like super fast, and I fell in love with incubators and the incubator ecosystem. I finished my fellowship, went to the US, made myself part of the Stanford ecosystem, where I learned, and the whole purpose of myself being on that campus was to understand why is Stanford's incubator and Stanford's innovation ecosystem successful, and why are we not? What's that one thing that we can pick it up from there, bring it here,
Plug it here.
yes, and make it happen, right? So I spent some time there. Uh, Studied as much as I could, picked up as much as I could, spoke to many people, found a lot of support, very lovely people, very lovely ecosystem. I was not part of any formal program, and that actually allowed me to sit wherever I wanted to sit, listen to anybody that I wanted to listen,
and involve in everything.
Absolutely right. And so there were no restrictions or limitations, and people were lovely. They were very accommodating, very welcoming. I finished that. I came back to India, and it was around the same time when we had decided to run this incubator called Adventure Park. And I said, yeah, let's do it. This was in December 2019. I came back from the US. 1st of Jan 2020 is when we started our operations.
But I see that Adventure Park is a very vibrant,
Right.
incubator, which
Everything that we did at Adventure Park, we took inspiration from the Silicon Valley, right? And one thing was very clear. Having worked with the whole ecosystem, one thing was very clear. We needed to give our founders more time, more respect, more flexibility to experiment and fail, and more support, right? And when I say support, I'm talking about both tangible support in terms of resources, finance, intellectual properties, so on and so forth, and intangible support like emotional support, etc. Right? So without these components, we cannot expect our founders to deliver what founders in the Silicon Valley deliver, right? Because we are culturally super different, right? What that means is the way we do things is very different from how they do things, right? People are on their own since they are 18 in the US, right? That gives them a lot of room to learn, fail, and they own their outcomes. That's not the case in India.
That's not,
right.
yes.
You pick up your degree.
18 or 828. It's still
Doesn't
not
matter.
the same.
Yes. No, I mean.
No, you hear even till 28, you still don't see that.
I'm 38, right? And I can't move my finger without my mom's permission, right? Or without she asking me, why are you doing
Why
this?
you're doing
right?
this.
And I love that. And that is what we are, right? And we have to understand that and accept it and work around it, right? Which is exactly where I think if we are designing an incubator that is uh, expected to be successful, we have to understand what we have. We have to understand what we don't have, and then fill the gaps, which is what we did with Adventure Park. Two very important things that we did very differently at Adventure Park. One, we believe in everybody. everybody is important, and everybody is different, right? So
This makes a lot of sense, actually.
and this is, if you look at it, there's nothing technical about it, right? Any person, any student, and
it's giving like a healthy space.
Yes. So we focus only on tier 2 and tier 3 students, because tier 1 already has a lot of support.
Yeah.
So we said we will
It is getting underutilized. In spite of giving so much of support, it is underutilized.
I won't comment on that, but my focus area is tier 2, because I am a tier 2, right? And this is the most simple explanation I can give. A lot of people ask me why only that audience, because it's going to take a long time with them, blah blah blah. I said I'm a tier 2 guy, right? And I would have invested on me. I would have wanted people to invest on me, right? I would have wanted people to give me that one chance for me to prove myself. I've been a little I've been, let's call myself an average student, right? But every single time we have to understand that every student, no matter what level of academics they fall in, right, they have something in them, right? It's that institution's responsibility to spend that time with them, on them, to observe and bring that out, nurture it, right? And that's exactly how we as a country are going to become a superpower, right?
Absolutely.
Our primary resource is human resource, right? With 1.5 billion people, what else do you think we have? And this is exactly what we have exported for a really long time.
Yes.
Right?
And they go and they are like building it up there, and
they shine. They shine wherever they
not
go.
only they're shining, they're building up there. So
yeah,
the countries are built
and
by
we are proud of them, right? But we also want them to do something for us.
Yes.
Right? We are definitely,
it's time there.
Yes, right? And that is not going to happen until and unless we give these individuals an opportunity, the respect, the time and the resources for them to plant themselves here and grow here. Right? Because we as a country, it's high time for us to retain these resources.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And incubators are going to play a very important role in here, not schools, not colleges, incubators.
But what you have actually practiced, it is so systematic. Like, for example, if you want to see a good engineer pass out or a good medico passing out, so we are giving them enough labs, we are giving them enough curriculum, they're having their structured, faculty who is teaching them. So when it comes to startups, that has to be replicated here as well. We can't just say कि भाई अब entrepreneur बनना चाह रहे हो तो भाई खुद से बस खुद जाओ, and that's not going to work somewhere.
It's not going to work, but that is not even happening, right? Even that is not happening. You know what's happening right now? Any tier 2 guy or girl who goes out and says, hey, I have an idea and I want to maybe, try a startup, they face extreme criticism. People demotivate them, discourage them, push them back.
पता है कि कुछ कहीं हो नहीं रहा है तो
नहीं, so they tell, they're told to, तुम जाके पहले अपनी पढ़ाई करो, जाके एक जॉब लो, 4 साल काम करो, फिर एक्सपीरियंस आएगा, फिर स्टार्टअप करो. कॉलेज तो जाना है नहीं, स्टार्टअप क्या करोगे, right? So they are faced this, with these taunts, right? And I don't know how this and that are connected, right? Every successful entrepreneur in the world that we see, was dysfunctional in some way or other, right? And I think we need to respect that. We need to respect the differences. We need to understand, how different people add to diversity, and how that diversity is very important for a healthy ecosystem, right? We are doing this because you love doing media. Right?
Absolutely.
और मेरे को मीडिया समझ ही नहीं आता, right? I'm a camera shy guy who can't open his mouth the minute camera is switched on, right? So I go shut, right? But I love people, right? I believe in the real and natural power of people, right? Something that's here, right? And for that to happen, we need to sit, we need to talk, right? And for that to happen, that's exactly what Adventure Park did, right? We gave people a space, tier 2 guys, जिनको किसी ने कभी कोई chance नहीं दिया, right? And more importantly, they were never respected.
And they've never been given that opportunity to speak up their mind out.
They were never heard. They were never heard. Their voice was lost, right? No matter how powerful their voices were, they were never heard. They were always ignored. They were pushed, right? They were criticized and all of that.
अब मैं देख रही हूँ थोड़ा बदल रहा है.
बहुत बदल गया है. बहुत
Because
बदल गया
I
है.
recently happened to go to Kammam. and seen part of a school where they are coming up with
Yeah.
innovative
Yes.
ideas at the school level.
And thanks to government,
And
right?
absolutely.
Because it's coming from the top.
Yes.
Right. If government feels it's important, it helps, spread the word. People will start,
So
taking
much of
notice.
narrative going around,
Yes.
and then the very systematic
Get it.
approach is
Now
happening.
you also have to understand it did not happen overnight. Right? It's
Absolutely.
been it took like 10 years, right? One full decade for Startup India to actually start making sense.
Even people to understand what is Startup India.
And fair enough. Like I said, the kind of cultural ecosystem that we are, I think it was meant to happen. It would have taken that time, and I'm glad it's happening, right? And that's exactly what TGIC does, right? The core fundamentals of Adventure Park and TGIC are same. Respect everybody. Great ideas can come from anywhere.
Anyone, anywhere.
Right? Anywhere. So it doesn't matter where you're coming from. You don't have to be from a tier 1 college to come up with great ideas, right? Quality of your ideas depend on the quality of heart you carry, right? Good people come up with great ideas. As simple as that.
Simple.
Right? So that is exactly what sits at the core of both Adventure Park and TGIC, and we listen to everybody regardless
And
of.
that's a differentiator also.
Yes.
See, here we are all talking about startups, but we are not, you're kind of ignoring the founders, because that's the founder mentality and the mindset which actually creates a startup.
That is where I was coming next, right? As an incubator, see, forget incubators. Any business has its one hero product, right? And a target market, right? And for incubators, that is founders.
Absolutely.
As an incubator, if you are not identifying good founders and helping them with whatever the founders want to do, what are you even doing? And how will you attract good founders if you don't want to listen to everybody?
The culture has to be set.
Exactly, right? Which is the primary difference what Adventure Park, made, right?
But I feel that should be the core strength.
Yes.
That should be
It
the core
is. It
strength
is.
for any ecosystem, for that matter.
It is. I spent about, on an average, the first 3 years of Adventure Park, I spent about 14 hours a day in office only listening to founders. Right? Today, it's a community of about 650 plus student founders, right? 304 startups incubated. And in many ways, there are so many, firsts accredited to Adventure Park, first pre-incubation program, blah, 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 right? But at the heart of it all is the one-on-ones that we do with the founders, right? And each one-on-one
Then
goes on for like hours and hours, right? And that is what I mean to say. When we got started, nobody knew what it could be, even me, right? I would be lying if I told you, we knew this was going to happen. No. What I knew was Stanford May professors sat down and worked with their students to build whatever they were building, right? People with great ideas were always welcome no matter who they are. Matlab, you could be a doctor and you could walk into a hardware lab and start talking to the hardware guy and take his help to build. Right? We don't ask them, do you have a hardware degree? We don't ask them, are you a mechanical engineer? We don't ask them those stupid questions there, right? So that is what I eliminated. We said, we are not going to ask these stupid questions, right? You want to do something, you should do
just
it.
do it.
Right? And you tell us what you need us to do, and we will clear the road for you, right? We will open the door for you, right? We will make sure your journey is as
a support system.
Is as uneventful as possible, because this is not easy.
Yeah.
Right? This is the hardest thing that anybody could choose to do with their lives.
But at least if we can play as those enablers who can shrink a bit of that.
That's it. That's it. That's the only role that we have to play, right? And that's what I'm saying, because anybody who's choosing to do startup has chosen to. This is the toughest thing that anybody can choose to do with their lives, right? It takes a life and a lifetime to build one company, is what I always say, right? And anybody who's choosing to do this, I think everybody should come and help them with whatever we can.
Help them, wish them. And even, actually congratulate them.
Absolutely, right? And if you can't do anything, at least zip up.
There's no reason to demotivate.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Say
Now,
nothing if you
this
can't speak
very,
good.
yeah. So now, since we understand with so much of your, sharing on how, what should be the ingredients of a good incubator, and it is such a systematic approach, like what you've learned, you've explored, and you understood very categorically where something, the gaps have to be actually filled in, and then you're seen, and then it is already made, and there is a set example for somebody to see it. So that's a very systematic approach. Now, this also gives, we want to understand, like, let's say, what is one collaboration behavior you wish every incubator in our state would adopt more consciously?
Okay. One very important thing that every incubator must understand is it takes a village to raise a child, and it
Agree.
takes a whole ecosystem to raise one startup. Incubation is not a lonely job, right? You cannot just produce startup alone.
Absolutely.
Every incubator must pick up their core strength and work on that, and also respect other incubator ka core strength. And without all of us coming together, we cannot do it, right? So incubation must convert into co-incubation. That should be the default way to go for any incubator, and this is the behavior I really wish and pray that all of us begin with. But we get a little protective, a little insecure about our startups going to other incubators and seeking help. ऐसा बिल्कुल भी नहीं होना चाहिए. And we need to understand this. Okay, we cannot firstly own a startup or a founder. Yes, you take the credit for identifying a founder, and 100% credit goes to you. But you also must understand that you cannot do this alone, right? Co-incubation is the only way to build successful startup the fastest.
This is a very, this actually struck me also. See, one, you're saying, what you're saying is absolutely right, because मुझे क्या लगता है कि हम सब कुछ कर भी नहीं सकते ना,
नहीं कर सकते.
नहीं कर सकते. तो already the other strength, if we take, we are not only making it ease for ourselves, while supporting the startup, we are also making our life a little more, reinventing the whole thing again,
100%.
redoing the whole thing again.
100%.
It doesn't make sense. Like, agar collaboration, because I feel today is the phase of collaboration, or you or you evaporate. Either one you choose.
Absolutely.
So collaboration makes a lot of sense, I strongly feel.
Absolutely.
So this is,
see, again, two things that we live by at Adventure Park. One, we thank everybody on day 0, the orientation day. We tell people thank you for choosing to fly with Adventure Park, right? Why do we say this? We have to understand, right? And it's more of a mindset thing. We tell this for two audiences. One, my team, so that they understand that we are nobody without the founders. And to the founders, to appreciate them for choosing us, because they could have chosen anybody. So thank you for choosing to fly with Adventure Park is what we tell them on day 1. Second, we tell them thank you for making us a part of your story. Right? Because once you become part of someone's story, you cannot remove it. You cannot change your story. Now we are sitting and having this conversation. 2 years down the line, MEESCHOOL Incubator will be one of the India's most premium media incubators and accelerators. You cannot remove Meraj from your story. आपकी 500 pages की book में मेराज की एक line होगी. And that is my
the contribution, what you're sharing, your
not
knowledge.
Contribution. That to me is my part. That is my role, right? And I'll die happy looking at it. You getting my point?
Yeah.
And same is the case with you, right?
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
you would do with TGIC, and nobody can take it away, right? And this is something that we need to build. This is exactly how we are going to
That's
develop
the culture mindset, what
exactly,
I'm talking about.
right? And this is exactly
whichever way we can contribute.
Totally, right? Even if it means bringing coffee to the founders in the office, right? And I do that.
Yeah.
When I was, the CEO at Adventure Park, I used to be the first guy coming to office. I used to clean my tables, because leadership can be only practiced. You cannot teach leadership.
Yes.
Right? So my
Just
guys...
now I was telling somebody something around the same lines.
Because Adventure Park is 100% volunteer driven, right? And for me to build that culture there, I had to do it myself first. And
Yeah,
when they
you
see
only
me
can
doing,
walk the talk.
absolutely,
These things you can't just keep
100%,
on, they have to be they have to
totally.
just seen and learn.
So this is where I was saying, right? This co-incubation is the fastest way for us to develop as an ecosystem.
Yeah.
अगर हम बोलेंगे कि नहीं हमें सब करना है, खुद से करना है, तो फिर एक जमाना लगने वाला है.
And then if I have to say, I feel that's the need of the hour.
100%.
Need of the hour. Okay. Now we want to also understand, what early founder behavior or an outcome told you that this particular initiative was the only way to genuinely work it out.
So many, right?
Hmm.
Two people opening up,
Hmm.
right? People felt heard. Again, everything that I'm telling you is non-technical components of building an incubator, right? There is another technical aspect and
No,
component.
but then this is the basic. Without this,
Without this,
technical,
there's nothing. Yes, first comes
आप
this.
दूसरा दोगे भी, if this is not there, वो utilize भी नहीं कर सकेंगे.
Correct.
This is important.
Right. So in the interviews, I used to ask my founders this one question, right? What qualifies you to build this idea? Qualify yourself. And don't do this for me, do this for yourself.
Okay.
And if you're able to justify your qualification for you to be building that idea, then we are in. Right. And that is exactly where everybody struggled. Right. Most of them struggled. But people with conviction, people who have lived through it, people who couldn't, sleep without thinking about their ideas, it came super naturally to them. Right. It did not take fraction of a second for them to answer it.
It doesn't. Yeah.
Right. For example, one of the founders at Adventure Park, Habib, he is the founder of this initiative called startup called Ministry of Cheese. Right? When
Ministry
I asked
of?
Ministry of Cheese,
Cheese.
it's a QSR outlet snack brand, right? And I'm a slightly anti-operation heavy businesses, right? So this is a operation heavy business. So I try to avoid these kind of founders and these kind of ideas. But in the interview, this guy opened up like in a completely different way, right? And this was outside my schedule. We were done with interviews, sab ho gaye the. We our list of selected founders was ready. All of that happened. This guy comes in and he says he had an exam, he was late, blah blah blah. I said, "Chalo, theek hai." And then I asked him, "What qualifies you to build this food startup?" His answer was, "Sir, मेरे को लोगों को खिलाना अच्छा लगता." लोगों को खाना खिलाना अच्छा लगता है. He did not take time to think, he did not say कि नहीं, I have a good recipe. He did not say, my snacks are tasty, I know where to procure it, in a cost effective way, this and that. None of that, right? What he said, मेरे को लोगों को खाना खिलाना अच्छा लगता. And that one line is enough for you to understand that this is the guy who is going to build it. Right? Because if you don't love, feeding people, if you don't enjoy it, you will never be good at it.
It will be for a brief period and then it fizzes out.
You will figure out something else and then something else and then something else. Exactly. Right? So these are the parameters, right? I personally use to gauge my founders, to gauge their ideas, to, see how passionate they are. I have worked with so many founders who came in without an idea.
Okay.
Right? And then, so when I speak with them, another question that I ask, everybody who walks in is, what's your story? And then they talk, right? First, it's super artificial. The first, 1 minute of everything that they're saying about their story is super artificial, right? Obviously, in a new room, new people trying to impress, trying to make yourself important and all that. And we have to understand and let that happen.
Scripted is there.
Yes, right? They've prepared an answer. And then I tell them, and when, everything that they have prepared for is finished, starts their real story. Right? Wahan pe these people start feeling vulnerable. These people start feeling exposed. Right? And these things come naturally to me because I'm a people's person. Right? It's very important for you to make them feel respected, and that's what I do. And I don't do this because, I want to get into their minds. I do
Maybe
that because
that's by default, because you're a
yes,
people's person, it's a very
yes,
naturally comes out to
yes,
you.
right. And I respect everybody. I don't respect them because, मेरे को उनका idea जानना है या फिर उनको वो founder कैसा है वो जानना है. I do that because that's the right thing to do, and that is how
The
my
only
mom
way you know,
has.
probably.
Yes, that's the only way. That's what my mom has taught me, right? And that has helped me, getting into corners with my founders, which told me why they are the best people to be working on the idea that they have chosen to work with. Yes, it's going to take them a slightly more longer time than other privileged founders because of the background and places that they are coming from, tier 2 and tier 3 guys, which is more of a reason for us to be there for them. And this is exactly what I also do with TGIC, right? We go to every district, right? I make it a point to listen to everybody who comes to me from wherever they are, no matter, what kind of an idea they're working on, even if their idea doesn't work, right? Even if I know, whatever the guy is working on is
It may not work.
Yes, right? I sit with them.
But you still listen to them.
I sit with them, I listen, I talk, I make them see what they should be seeing. And it's usually not an easy process, right? And this goes on and on and on and on, right? They fight. We have very heated conversations, right? It's not easy, right? We have glamorized the whole startup thing in a way that is super unrealistic. Like it looks like a Bollywood movie, which it's not.
It is not.
It's not, right?
In reality, it is
It's
not.
not. It's we have fantasized the whole thing. There's nothing fancy about entrepreneurship, to be very honest, right? This is the most painful thing that anybody could be choosing. You should be an idiot to be doing this, right? After having all other good option. In fact, so many leaders of the ecosystem, whenever we gather informal settings, we talk about this, right? Why are we doing whatever we chose to do, right? Our lives, everybody has something else which is much more comfier, much more easier, much more relaxing, and much more rewarding than entrepreneurship that they have chosen. But
Yeah.
दिल लगी दीवार से तो परी क्या चीज है, right? So you like it, there's no reason for you to,
there's no reason.
You can't
That
look for
cannot be expressed. That cannot be experienced because that's the experience what you're going through. You can't actually put it into
For the love
words.
of it.
Yes, yes. Well, I think so. That actually sums up, if anybody really wants to or confused, how do you even validate or how do you even understand the pulse of a founder?
Yeah.
I think so. This is one good insight which is going to help them. Okay, now some of the realities we would like to understand from you, Mr. Meraj. From a vantage point of view, what is the biggest illusion founders are living in today?
Oh boy. Founders think everybody is
ये एक bubble जो बना हुआ है ना, there's a
see, one biggest problem with founders is they think वो स्टार्टअप करेंगे और पूरी दुनिया उनके कदमों में आके उनको सपोर्ट करेगी. For ecosystem, I tell yes, you should. But to founders, I mean, why do you feel entitled for that support? Why do you feel you would start working on an idea and you can hire this guy to do that guy to do that, partner with someone to do that, and this and that? That is the high level of I don't know, stupidity, right? If you are choosing to be a founder, right, one thing that you have to understand is learn to stay lonely for a very long time and do everything by yourself. And Abhi, you're not as lonely thanks to AI. You can take AI's help, but pre-AI,
oh,
you had to build, you have to sell, you had to market, you had to do everything by yourself, right? There is nobody who's going to come. And this is my problem, right? Founders, so many times, they come and they're like, okay, tell me, what can you do for me? Or, I have this idea, can you build me and give it to me? I said, excuse me, why will I build your idea for you? Right? No, because this is my idea. I said, that's not how it works. So we are still very far from understanding what it takes, right? And this is where I think, again, ecosystems have to, come together,
Imbibe.
talk
You
about
can't.
it, right? You cannot build culture of a place without conversations. Conversations, cultures, mindset. Three-step process, right? Conversations change cultures, cultures develop mindsets, right? And for this to happen, we have to talk. We have to talk, and we have to do the right thing, even if it's going to piss a lot of people off, right? We have to speak, what is true, no matter how many founders it's going to piss, right? So many of my founders come sit with me, and when I tell them, not happening, right? They're like, you don't get it. It's very easy for you to, say
Say
no.
no.
It's very easy for you to say, go try again. It's very easy for you to tell me, ke nahi, ye chalega. But it's not working.
Working.
You're sitting from, you're looking at things, from a point of privilege and this and that. I said, nothing doing.
I think so. We need to understand how to say no. That's a skill again, and they need to accept.
And then they come back, right? Ek do hafte ke baad, they come back, they sit, they look into me, in the eye, and they're like, now I
Right.
get
You
you.
were right.
You were right,
Right.
right?
What you were
So
actually trying to say.
I have earned that thing over the past 6 years working with my founders at Adventure Park, right? And now that they also have a lot of people who tell them, अगर मेराज बोल रहे हैं तो कुछ ना
उसमें
कुछ
कुछ
है,
point है.
just
उसमें कुछ point
go
है.
ahead with that, right? Instead of wasting your time on fighting it.
No, but that's a good thing, which you have actually experienced it, and now you're trying to contribute it back to them, and then it is helping so many of them, not one or two of them. So that's a real good
And
thing,
more
actually.
importantly, it was not to build. So the way we operate at Adventure Park, right? Everybody is a leader. What that means is, so I don't have a cabin there, right? I sit in a boardroom with all my other founders, because what I know, I make sure all my founders have to know about it, right? The way we do things, the way we are supposed to be doing things, and how we react to a particular thing, a particular situation, a particular problem, right? And that's why today, when I took up this role at TGIC, the place is functioning like it was functioning with me, right? So, which is where they are now facing those problems. So, when they talk to new founders and when they tell them, maybe you should continue to try this, they're like, you don't get it. You
Like
don't.
you've kind of replicated
Yes.
the whole.
So now they come back to me like, I'm sorry, because now I know what you felt when I told you or did that to you then, right? We as a country, I think we must get all our kids literally, into that positions of responsibility and make them feel the heat today.
एक वक्त ऐसा होता था, बिकॉज आई कम फ्रॉम आर्मी बैकग्राउंड, मुझे ऐसा लगता था व्हेन वी यूज्ड टू सी सिविलियंस अराउंड, हर एक को है ना, एक 5 साल 3 साल डेफिनेटली सर्विस में जाना चाहिए, बाद में भले ही वो कुछ भी प्रोफेशन चूज करे, बिकॉज इट यूज टू बी सो इराटिक टू सी सो अनडिसिप्लिन्ड अराउंड. तो अभी मुझे लगता है कि सबको है ना, टू एक्चुअली सी वेयर आवर कंट्री इज हेडिंग टुवर्ड्स, एक 5 साल के लिए एक एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप, एक स्टार्टअप, एक कुछ करना चाहिए उनको.
Totally.
That's when you'll see the entire perspective change also, and I feel that when it comes to me, I've been an entrepreneur all the time, but then just to prove my family and friends ki HR ho, lecturer ho, and then why you want to get into, I always get into some startup or the other, then just to keep them at ease, I worked for 2 years as a lecturer. Then I did HR for 2 years, and then come back. I'll always come back to some new idea of an entrepreneurship, and then get back.
I have done it all. I have worked in a corporate. I have been a founder. You name it, right? And more importantly, not because it was मेरे को try करना है. It was more of a, now we need to understand how this works, and for me to understand how it works, you have to do it yourself.
Do it yourself.
Right? And
same
started
thing.
from the bottom.
Same thing it goes to me. Something we've done, I can't do that same thing again and again. I need to change. I need to change and explore another new vertical and a new business idea altogether. I can't just be there for so many years. Yeah, that's a good thought, actually. Yeah, moving on, Fahim ji. I would like to understand the real value and the perception side of it. Keeping aside of so and so incubator about the brand part, what is the real measurable value you think as an incubator should deliver to a founder, though you already mentioned, but anything specific and
Yes.
beyond funding?
Great question. So whenever anybody comes to me and say, I want to set up an incubator, I ask them two questions. One, how, like I ask my founder, right? What qualifies you to be an incubator? What's your focus area going to be? Second, for you to be an incubator, in fact, we had this conversation when
With
you
me,
said you wanted to
yes,
set up an
yes.
incubator, right?
I went through that grind as well.
You have to, unlock one of these things, one or more of these three things. One, as an incubator, can you unlock product value? Can you help your founder build a product, derive product value like it should be? Two, can you unlock market access, right? Can you help your founder, your startups take their product to the market, get them pilots, right? Get them customers? Three, unlocking capital for them, growth capital, right? So if you cannot unlock product value or market access or capital, you have no business in incubator space. You should be able to do one of these three things, or
All of
ideally
these three.
all these three things, right? So point one is where our differentiator as an incubator comes into picture. I cannot help media startups unlock product value as an incubator, which is where I'll reach out to you, co-incubate my media wale startups with you,
With us. That.
right? But I can maybe, let's say, unlock market access for them, right? So you can reach out to me and say, hey, my media startups need so and so connection, so and so access. Can you help us, right? This is exactly where
Exactly.
co-incubation comes into
Yes,
picture.
yes.
So just to sum what I said, two questions. What qualifies you to be an incubator? What's your focus area? What's that one thing that you know about your focus area that other incubators don't? Second, unlocking one of these three things or all these three things, ideally. Without this, no incubator, no business.
Yeah, you need to have that value proposition. Absolutely. So, why do you think some founders feel that incubators are all about events and, then the outcomes? And why is this gap in this perception?
Perception it is, right? And it's very wrong. Events have no business in incubators, right? As an incubator, if you don't have a programmatic approach and answer to the problems of your startups, again, sorry to say, you're not an incubator, you're an events company, and there's no harm in being that, but just don't call yourself an incubator. Events are a completely different thing, and a lot of
Events
times,
related to something to nurture, groom up,
see, like I
upskill,
said,
whatever.
programmatic approaches. The problem and the difference between programmatic approach and event-based approaches, programmatic approach has follow-ups. It has continuity, right? It has a drop-off point and a pickup point, right? Events don't. You come to an event, you absorb whatever it is, great. I'm not against events, right? But there's no continuity to it, right? You're done with an event, you're done with an event. Yeah, you meet people, it's on you to,
You just
pick up that
network, you
conversation
really don't
and
know how useful
finish.
it
That's
is
it,
and not.
right? At Adventure Park, we do a lot of events, right?
But
We
which are relevant to the
so
ecosystem building.
exactly. So the first event that we started with is called Founders Friday. First Friday of every month, we do something called Founders Friday, where any founder can walk into the space, and this segment called crowd pitching. You pitch your idea to a random crowd, and the crowd says whether they like your idea or not. Right? That's rawest form of idea validation that can ever happen, right? And then you go talk to people who said yes, who said no, pick up on their feedback, continue to build. Founders Friday. And the second event that we do is called Founders Fest. This happens once a year in public garden, and that is again to create a market access opportunity and
By
program.
then they have all groomed to that.
Technically, yes, right? But this is for, again, everybody, right? So we celebrate these founders once a year, coming, a very showcasing as well, networking. It's more of an IPL for founders. kind of a thing. When it happens, people know, okay, what you are building, what am I building, what are my challenges, people partner up, so on and so forth. So many other things happen. But again, there is no continuity to it. So what we did was we converted Founders Fest into something else altogether. Now, anybody who puts up a stall at Founders Fest, they get year-long business support. It could be market access, it could be, legal and compliances, it could be finance and accounting, it could be anything, right? It could be any challenge. And
so you suggest there has to be a continuity for every
very
event.
important.
There has to be an objective to it.
Very important. Yes.
Makes sense. So should the incubator start taking performance accountability for a startup success and not just mentorship?
Absolutely, 100%. Without accountability, I don't think, we are ever going to reach the finish line, right? What does success mean to you as an incubator, and what does success mean to you as a startup are going to be two very different things. So many there are a lot of incubators जिनके लिए fundraising is a success metric, right? But is that the same thing for startup? क्योंकि if incubator thinks वहाँ पे उनकी responsibility finish हो रही है, startup की responsibility वहाँ से start हो रही है, right? And this is where these two meet at the opposite points. So we need to understand what is it in favor of the startup, in favor of the
so certain
incubator.
Parameters, if they are set,
correct,
that accountability comes into
correct
play.
Now every incubator, right, if you're an idea stage incubator, then your drop off point would be product. You're helping a founder convert their idea into a product, right? And then there are other incubators who will help products go to market. Then there are other incubators who will help those growth stage startups scale, right? So on and so forth. So different incubators come into picture at a different point in time, and depending on that, you set your metrics. You set your KPIs, right? Your KRAs are assigned, and depending on that, I think without you tracking them, it's not going to work out.
So accountability is not a choice or a preference, it is a must.
Totally. In fact, the culture statement at Adventure Park again is we call it go far, do it. FAR stands for flexibility, accountability, and responsibility. DOET, do it. Delegate, ownership, enable, and trust. These are the tenets that Adventure Park runs on, right? So
they are very clear cut, earmarked.
Right. So anybody who comes in understands what, yes, right? So you are accountable for your performance, but you're responsible for the success of the whole incubator. You cannot say, this is not my responsibility. You cannot say that. You're responsible for everybody, but you're accountable for your own deliverables. You'll be questioned on, if let's say you're a marketing person, so you'll be questioned for the marketing stuff. But let's say you see something happening and you did not stop it or you did not help. So you will be questioned for your responsibility as the whole thing. So on and so forth.
Yeah, that's a good framework. Very systematic. So what is the framework for identifying whether the product will sell itself or struggle?
There is no easy way to it. The only known way to mankind is going and talking to your prospective customer. Now, the way you talk to your prospective customer could be different. It's subjective to the product, the industry, the service, the domain, the ticket size, the country, the need, and so many other factors, right? So it's super subjective. While how part is subjective, what is not subjective? You going and talking to them is not subjective at all. Regardless of, whether you are a B2C product or a B2B product, whether you are a tech product, a non-tech product, a hardware, a software, a food, you could be anything, right? There is no other way for you to know if it would sell or not without talking to your customer, right? So that is the core.
That's the first step.
Essence of your GTM, right? Step one. Step two, in fact, I created the GTM canvas, that helps people build their go-to-market, strategies in a very simple way. Again, from my experience, taking my startups from zero to thousands of customers, right? So you how do you go and how do you identify this thing? If I were to say it, and this is very, this is what I love doing. I love doing GTMs, right? When you think of an idea, when you think of a product, you cannot think of a product without thinking of who would technically
Your
use
ideal
it,
customer.
right? There's never an idea without a thought of a customer in mind. The minute you have that, the first thing that you'll have to do is call them and say, okay, hey, I have this thing. Would you like to try? Without a product, you're going to do that, right? Now, depending on whatever the answer that person is going to give you is what would evolve your product journey, right? So, four very important components that you
So you
start
have a
with.
scope to improvise on.
Absolutely, right? So if you look at GTM canvas, the first four quadrants, they have primary feature. That is one thing that people come to you for. Primary sellable feature, that is the feature that makes you money. Third is a differentiator. Without differentiator, you can't stand in the market. Fourth, and it's a very ideal thing, which is unfair advantage. I call it alpha. What's your alpha? What's that one thing that only you have, right? And nobody else can have, which you can leverage to sell to your customers. Once you have these four things ready, you build a wish list of your customers. Now, I want to sell this product to Google. I want to sell this product to Microsoft. I want to sell this to NASA. I want to sell this to government of Japan. Yeah, whatever that is, right? Wish list. And make your wish list as grand as possible, right? Once you have these five things sorted, you reverse engineer your ways. You start, figuring out ways to identify how to get to your wish list, right? And once you bump, let's say MEESCHOOL is on my wish list, right? I will see in my connections who can make me an introduction to MEESCHOOL, right? And now the minute I get that introduction, I'm going to call or meet and pitch them my primary feature, my primary sellable feature, using my differentiator and my alpha. That is going to give me a response, right? Now, based on whatever response I'm getting from eSchool, I will go back and I'll redo my
Product. Developing, improving.
Exactly, right? Which is why I say ideally your GTM comes into picture pre-product. Once you figure this out, let's say you talk to 500 people on your wish list, only 5 respond, and based on the feedback from those 5, your product takes a particular shape. And then you go back to your 500 list again and you pitch them. This time 50 people, welcome it, accept it, give it a try. That's where your product journey starts. And let's say out of those 50, only 10 pay you, right? That gives you your ICP, ideal customer profile, which you put into your who, why, what, and then you scale your systems massively, right? This is a super structured, super, straight approach. We complicated, I don't know why, right?
This is giving me some insights, like how for Cenepreneur, we have been evolving. We made something and then after a cohort, then we realized this is something, based on the inputs and then.
Right.
So there is a scope for improvisation a lot.
Correct. I built this ideally for the idea stage founders, and given the fact that I work with thousands of student founders, I built this to help them with the whole thing. Right now,
It's good, no? They have such a nice already.
It's a very simple framework.
A proven
Yes.
methodology there, which again everybody doesn't have to climb the whole structure again and again.
Now we have facilitated the whole thing through AI, which means once you have validated your idea with n number of customers, and that n differs from business and business model to business model, right? Once you validate that, AI will do the rest, right? Let's say you have figured out how to sell to 50 people. AI will tell you, okay, now since you have sold to 50, I'll help you find 5,000 more people like them. Your journey becomes like super easy.
Oh. Yeah.
That is what GTM Canvas does, right? And it's very exciting to use it and work with it, because talking to people tells you whether you should be building whatever you're building or not. And once it's there, right? And there is one.
There's a lot of clarity there.
Correct. There is one very simple line I've written in my GTM Canvas handbook. It's a 10-pager, very simple read, and free to download. You should definitely give it a try and give me feedback.
Surely.
You are only one customer away or one right user away from your 1 millionth user. Right? Imagine this.
Makes a lot of
1,
sense.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 goes up to 1 million users. Now, let's say in this whole journey, you bump into one wrong user just for the sake of it. Will you be connected to your 1 million? You won't.
No.
Right? So, it's super important for you to handpick your first 10 users and the next 10 users and then the next 10 users, so on and so forth. And if you do a good job in picking up the right first 10 users, your journey will be easier.
Got it. Oh, it's such a, I mean, you've really eased it out actually, because that's the actual pain point for any entrepreneur,
Totally.
Mr. Miraj. That's a real pain point. And if that is addressed, I think so now many entrepreneurs, because I think so that's where they shy off also. That's
Yeah.
where they shy off also to get into even that entrepreneurship
Correct.
journey. Okay. And that's a good, I think so everybody should
And they live in denial. They live in denial. So many people outside, people who we can't incubate or we don't incubate, they reach out and they, seek help. And I'm very humbled to, help everybody. But when I ask them, you should go and talk to these people, and they start coming up with all kinds of
all
excuses.
kind of reasons. All kind of reasons.
No, I think my product is not ready. I think I'm trying to,
I need some more time.
I'm
I
trying
want
to
to.
improve my logo. I'm trying to improve my color and all sorts of nonsense, right? And like I said, I have a, zero tolerance policy. And I said, this is BS. Okay. I don't think you're serious about it. About your ideas. What I regularly tell
तो
them
वो
on
conviction
this.
नहीं है.
And I just tell them, right? And so many of them get offended. People who don't know me get offended. People who know me, understand where it's coming from. They go back and they, try it and they come back. And
I
most
still
of them,
remember for the first time when we had 400 applicants, and I made sure I speak to all of them.
Yeah.
It's me who is speaking to all of them,
it
and
has
actually.
to, it works that way. Without that, there's
And
no
I
doing.
did a couple of them who joined and said, like, you were the one who was speaking, ma'am, like you being a founder. And then, of course, yes, what I'm going to offer and what you're expecting, I should be knowing. Otherwise, how would I even
That's how it works.
justify what you're actually looking at?
That's how it works.
So now, yeah. Yes, so that's the way. I agree. Totally agree with you on this. So now, if we have to understand the fast forward for next 5 years, what kind of founders you think will thrive in India's next startup wave, and what kind of founders may really struggle as per,
Full
all
stack
this?
founders, right? Founders who can do, who will do everything, not can do, because there's a big difference between will and can. You must own all aspects of running your, product / startup. As we continue to see AI taking over, in a big way, we will, the way we know startups is going to change. Micro entrepreneurship is, will be taking over in a big way. And what that means is a founder will be doing its own design, development, marketing, sales, legal and compliances, and accounts. Right? So full stack founders is what I see, things moving
Will
forward in the
thrive.
next 5 is a very long time. 2 years is what I would say. Things are changing in a
Fast pace.
very fast pace, right? So that's one. Two, we need to, take a step back and identify and be more human, right? See, it's more of a supply and demand thing, right? The more we see AI being supplied, its value will, keep coming down, and the more we see human interventions, going away, we will need more of that. And that is what I think, will come back. And human interventions of super high quality will be in great demand. So if you are a specialist, if you are, let's say, a great lawyer or a doctor or, a designer, then good news, you are going to be in demand. Yes, provided you're a people's person.
Yeah, this is an eye opener actually. So some of to understand, how does your thought process work? We have some quick questions for you. Product first or market first?
Market first.
Long-term vision or a quick execution?
Quick execution.
Community building or product building?
Community building.
And then product will
Yes.
automatically take place. Deep work alone or brainstorm with founders?
Ouch, this is a tough one.
It varies sometimes.
Yes, it's subjective. Both are important, and I think both are very important. You cannot choose between this and that.
It depends upon
50% this, 51% with the founders, and 49% deep work.
Since you said that you've been spending a lot of time listening to founders, and did you ever find, it was just a PPT and there's no business idea at all?
Yeah.
You come
And
across such?
like I told you, I meet a lot of people without an idea, right? And I work with them for their energies, right? I'm a big believer of positive energy, right? Positive energy can change so many things, right? You put right people between right people, and they figure out magic.
What is more dangerous according to you? A bad idea with great confidence or a great idea with no execution?
A great idea with no executions mean nothing. So, yeah.
Or the same idea, can it be picked up with somebody who has got a good execution to be done?
That's the problem, right? So
Because many feel that, मैं अपना भी idea बता दूंगा ना कोई और चोरी कर लेगा.
नहीं चोरी कर सकता कोई
नहीं,
किसी का
वही
आइडिया
मैं-
नहीं चोरी कर सकता.
हाँ,
You cannot be mother to somebody else's idea, somebody else's
Yes.
baby, right? You have to give birth to an idea for you to know everything about your idea, right? You have to know it all, right, without anybody telling you about it, and that can't happen if you adopt something,
Yes.
right? And
Even if it happens,
I'm
it's a very
being-
brief period.
I'm being very respectful when I'm using the word adopt.
Adopt.
I wanted to use the word steal, right? And stealing ideas is not a thing, right? One, no idea is anybody's property, right? It depends on execution. It depends on your ability to execute a certain thing,
Yes.
right? If you see, there are so
But
many
same things can be executed differently.
Absolutely.
You own the pattern
Absolutely.
of
Absolutely.
your deliverables.
So it's in your hands.
Hmm.
And if someone is executing your idea better than them, then you did not have the right to work on that idea. This is something that we need to understand.
We need to understand because this is so commonly coming across. बस बात करना है.
Yeah.
Even if they want to share it, they are like, नहीं, I don't want to tell. Good. I think so many of them will get their answers for this. From Telangana ecosystem perspective, do you believe founders today begin market education and community building even before the product is fully developed?
They're not doing it, and that's the sad part. I wish they do it. I wish they, go to market. I wish they talk to people. I wish they build. See, how do you build a community? You don't actively build a community, right? You build a community by doing whatever you love doing the most, right? Let's say you love filmmaking. You continue to, make films, and then you will find like-minded people, and that is how you build community. You don't go out one fine day and say, I want to build a community of filmmakers. That's not how you build it. Right?
It doesn't happen also.
Exactly. It doesn't work, right? And people call it out very soon if you do it that way. I see a lot of people saying, I'm building a community of so and so. I said, theek hai. Even if I were to take it, for your face value, tell me what have you done? No, we are building a community. That's not how it works.
And then that's the a good approach, to have a stronger outcomes.
Absolutely, right? It's super important. You have to have your eyes on the outcomes and stronger outcomes, yes. Without which, and ability to quantify your outcomes as well, right? So many times we feel good about an outcome, but we can't quantify it. Gets very confusing.
So just to understand the founder's psychology a bit, what separates a founder who scale from those who just survive?
Go-getter, right? Belief system. People who have scaled never for once doubted if it was going to work out or not, versus others, they always were in constant dilemma, whether I should do it or, I'll find someone to do it. Dependency, bas chal raha hai, chalayenge. That's it, right? So people who have scaled They were drivers from day zero.
In this journey, have you experienced the hunger for founders declining because funding has become accessible?
People who start for funding, they die very soon. Yes, but people who do it for their product, for the love of the market, no.
They don't. They survive.
But that's a big filter, and I wouldn't say declining. It's market correction. I would use the word market correction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the approach also.
Yes, and I think India will go through its fair share of market correction in the next couple of years as well. People who are not naturally meant to be founders will be filtered out, and people who are meant to be doing this will continue to do regardless of funding or no funding.
Now, about a little bit of understanding about the policy ecosystem and the India's future from government innovation lens. What is Telangana incubators doing right, which can be better as a best practices to the other states? One I already know, which has actually made me see. I have really got impressed with couple of initiatives which I may not know, but one which is my experiential has been amazing, especially the roundtables, where all the best practices come in.
And there are two other components to it which you will see happening this year. One, capacity building of all the incubators, right? We do not have the right resources or available to the incubators to run the way an incubator should be running. And I'm especially targeting tier 2 and tier 3 ones, right? So we will be launching a full-fledged incubator management fellowship that will be powered by TGIC in collaboration with the central government. That will help the leadership, the management of these incubators to pick up the art and science of running an incubator, right? Both the tangibles and intangibles that I spoke about in the beginning, right? So we are going to launch a full-fledged fellowship for anybody to make their careers in the incubator space. Why? Because like I said, incubators are more important than colleges and schools. And we don't have enough teachers. We don't have enough principals. We don't have, enough faculty to be running these incubators. So I believe, and this is also where I think, the next set of jobs. India needs around say another 5 to 10,000 incubation managers, right?
Yes.
Hardcore, but there's no program in the country. There's nothing in the country that is preparing them for this one. So we will be the first one to pick it up and deliver.
Amazing.
Right? And the second one is accountability part. Right, we are going to launch a framework that will hold incubators responsible for their deliverables, and that will help us understand what's working, what's not working, so that
the competitive spirit,
not competitive spirit at all. This will help us bring in necessary intervention, right? So let's say there is incubator A, and they do a few things right, and a few things are not working out.
Certain checkpoints.
Yes, it will tell us, what they need and what we need to do to help them, etc., etc. Right? So a framework that will help us assess the quality of incubation happening in the incubator. So these two things, you can expect them
and they sound very powerful. It's very empowering to even think about it.
So we were doing the groundwork the whole of the last year. If you saw our initiatives, TGIC host institution in all the districts, powered by innovation panchayats to build, the brain of these districts. Now the third step and the fourth step are these. So this will close the whole loop.
Amazing. So should India focus more on deep tech innovation or execution-driven business? You already said a bit, but yes.
Execution, yes, but I don't think this is, again, with due respect, a valid question, because these two are very important things and cover different aspect of the whole spectrum. So both are important.
Because it's the more importance I see personally is on the deep tech
part. Yeah. So it's natural, right? It's trending, and I might sound stupid, but I don't care. People chase trends, and I don't think that is how it should be, right? You follow your heart and you will build something that will trend, is how I have looked at things. When I started India's first coding bootcamp, the term coding bootcamp did not exist in the country. If I were to follow trend, I would have set up another training institute, right? But I chose to follow my heart and I did what I did, right? Now you see thousands of coding bootcamps in the country. right? So I think deep tech is, yes, trendy, very important, but I think we should look beyond that and continue to chase what our hearts really want and put our minds to it.
Because even VCs have their mind set on, if it is heavy on execution,
Oh boy.
they are like have too many questions around it.
Correct.
So
But yeah,
that
it
is.
has to make sense eventually.
So now, as an authority, if you're given an opportunity, Mr. Miraj, to redesign a startup ecosystem from a scratch, what are the 3 bold steps you would take up immediately to implement?
The most important thing that I think I would be doing is bringing in extremely tight measurements, monitoring and measurement tools to understand who's doing what and what's happening and what's not happening, right? Because a lot of it right now is
Loose ends?
very loose ends, off the radar, no visibility, all of that, right? Chal raha hai, ho raha hai, karenge, right? So that's one very
So India
important thing.
needs some more stringent kind of a
Monitoring and
framework.
evaluation framework. That's first thing I would do. Second, financial assistance is, see, we can talk as much as we want, but we also have to understand that until and unless we power up our innovators, our founders with the necessary nutrients, aka funding, we cannot expect them to do wonders, right? We need that risk capital. We need to allow them to experiment, right? Without which I don't think it can happen. And if you look at our GDP versus spend on research and development and innovation, it's not matching,
It's
right?
not matching.
Versus the population that we have. We need to speed that up. So that's the second one, right? I would, while a lot of that is happening, I mean, central government recently allocated another 10,000 crores,
For
right?
research.
But I think there's still a lot of gap. किसको मिल रहा है, कहाँ पे
किसको
मिल रहा है,
मिल रहा
और कैसे मिलेगा, right? So if we
And what are the parameters even to receive it? I think
correct.
so that has to be very
Correct. So
clearly
if
earmarked.
if we tighten these balls, see, DPIIT or Startup India is dependent on incubators to flow
Roll
the
it out.
flow, right? What that means is they're dependent on incubators, but do we know that incubators know what they're doing, right? Which is where the capacity building part comes into picture, right? So all of this is connected.
Correct, correct.
Third, dedicated hardcore resources for incubators.
It's time. It's high
Without
time
a right leadership, you cannot expect the ecosystem to
to run
yeah,
efficient.
flourish. It won't.
वो ट्रायल एंड एरर चलता रहेगा.
See, 15 साल पहले ठीक है. We
Not
could have
now. That's
afforded
what I'm
it.
saying. It's high
Today,
time.
nahi. We can't do that today.
And what is that one mindset shift founders must adopt to truly leverage the ecosystem? For that matter, any ecosystem.
So, the phrase I would say, I mean, it should be the mindset, what can I do for you? Even if it means you have nothing, if you can do nothing, if you are nobody, right? Doesn't matter what you have, who you are, right? Have this mindset of what can I do for you, right? Walk into a room and ask people, what can I do for you? Even if it means, like I said, bringing coffee, right? Whatever that is, try and make yourself a contributing part of their stories, their journeys, right? Facilitate and
More approachable attitude.
yes, and bring your guards down, right? Once we do that, once we get a little bit vulnerable, we will see you're not talking to robots, right? We are all human beings and we all have our needs, and we understand what we can better understand what we can do for each other, right? And for that to happen, we'll have to meet, we'll have to sit, we'll have to talk, we'll have to smile, and we have to cut down the formalities.
So if I have to say, it all started with the talking,
Yes.
and then again it concludes with that, the
Yeah.
conversation, which looks like plays a very, very important
Correct.
and the key role there.
Correct. I mean, I'm not sure if you noticed, but this is the first question I ask everybody. What can I do for you?
What can I do for you? Yeah, I did notice. I did, because I myself experienced, like, immediate, it comes so naturally. Yeah, I think so. That's the best way to, as a icebreaker for
Yeah.
anybody to even come
And
up.
that's very easy,
That's
right?
very easy.
It's very easy. In
Yeah.
fact, it's slightly difficult on the opposite side. They start thinking, okay, what do I ask?
Mm. Correct, correct.
And when you are faced with this question, you ask in return, what can I do for you?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Well, Mr. Miraj, after listening to such valuable insights, I must say this conversation clearly emphasized that startups don't fail because of lack of ideas. They fail because of lack of clarity, execution, and alignment with reality,
Absolutely.
market reality.
Absolutely.
Well, we thank you very much, not just for building Telangana's startup ecosystem, but for continuously challenging it to make it better and founder centric. This is something what I feel after
Thank
our
you.
conversation is a very good phase what we are in, because
Right.
you're running the ecosystem. I must say, today's conversation on building ecosystem, I can't stop myself to mention these lines, which sums up something which is very apt for what you're doing. आप वो हो जो हर विचार को आगे बढ़ाना जानते हैं, इसलिए आप इकोसिस्टम को मजबूत भी बनाते हैं. So this is what you're doing, and keep the good work going, Mr. Miraj.
Thank you
I
so
think so. We
much.
need more leaderships like you. Having said this, today's conversation clearly reminds us again and again that ecosystems are not built overnight. They are designed through intent, strengthened by execution, and sustained by leaders who believe in outcomes over optics. Hence, I truly believe true ecosystem leadership lies in giving direction to the ideas and confidence to the startups to move forward, because the right direction and the right support is what a strength for every entrepreneur. Thank
Absolutely.
you very much for joining in and sharing all the insights, pouring your heart out for us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing this, and more power to you and your team. This is very important. I mean, I know that you speak with, a lot of other leaders as well, and imagine something that someone says strikes someone's heart and it leads them to build something, right? What it could do for the country. So never take it lightly. What you're doing is very powerful, and more power to you. It's been an honor being here talking to you. It opened up my mind as well. And parting note, what I'm doing, I mean, it's pure privilege for me that I was chosen to do what I'm doing, and I think God picks up people for a particular task in their own way at their own time.
There's definitely a
Right,
purpose
so
to it.
I don't take it lightly, and all of us, whatever we are doing, is what God wants us to do. So we should never take it lightly. We should put our, the right foot forward and expect God to help us, and we will receive that help. Because if you won't, God will find someone else to do the job, right?
Yes.
So it's
I
again,
agree on this.
I am super humbled, right? It's an honor and privilege to be doing this, and thank you so much for this
It was
conversation.
our honor to have you here today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Miraj.